Hey guys, welcome to the American Tribune Live. We finally rolled out the new music, and I gotta be honest, I don't know if I love it. Let me know in the comments below. But we paid for it, and so now we're going to use it. I understand the idea of a sunk cost and all that, but it is what it is. And I don't know about you, but I'm feeling like I had a seizure from all the red laser lights. Trying something new. This is what happens when you are a one-man show. And I got to apologize to my Rumble community here. It looks like we have lost the feed on one of our channels. We're still on the main Rumble channel, the American Tribune. We started a second channel, the American Tribune Live with Todd Peterson. So if you were watching there, you're not hearing this message anyways, but you can head over to the American Tribune Rumble channel. We're there. We're on YouTube. We're on X. We are not on Facebook because there are things that this program says that the big tech overlords still don't like. And I don't care what Zuckerberg did for Trump's inauguration fund. Facebook is still Facebook. But glad to have you with me today, folks. Feeling calmer today. I don't know about you. It's been a lot to get angry about lately out there, but we're just going to go through some news stories. I promise to be calm today. I appreciate you tuning into the show. We got to talk Obama. We got to talk about Tulsi. We got to talk about everything the deep state did to undermine Trump's electoral victory in 2016. We won't spend much time on it. There's not a lot new to add at this point. The story's been out for a couple of days now, but my first time back in the booth, and we had to touch on it here. But the larger point to the entire program today is that Dems have applied a certain set of rules to Republicans for decades at this point. And when Republicans get in power, they always try to play the my principles card. They always like to take the high ground. Don't listen to Michelle Obama. When they go low, we go high. That is just a lie. Democrats never go high. They will go low. My question always for Democrats is, what is a single policy supported by Democrats that's ever good for an individual or society? The answer is nothing. I've never been told an answer by an actual Democrat. Well, I support Democrats because this reason is good and just and moral, and it's not true. Like, they have nothing. So no, the Democrats never go high. Democrats make up rules, though. They're going to say, we will make up information. We'll create a hoax. We will try to imprison you. We'll try to assassinate you. We'll round up all your supporters. When Republicans get in power, it's not like there's no shortage of corruption to go after, scandalous behavior to go after, lying to go after. There are plenty of criminal activities perpetrated by Democrats. And when we get in power, we're just like, if we compromise with them, if we're nice to them, if we ignore it and we don't go after them, maybe they'll be nice to us the next time around. And I don't know who needs to hear this, but you can't compromise with a communist. These people live in a different world. They have no moral system. There's no moral compass. There's no belief or anything other than absolute power. That is what motivates Democrats, communists, the left, whatever word you want to use. They are motivated by one thing and one thing only, and that is absolute power. So no, they don't care if you try to send out an olive branch, if you try to compromise with them, if you try to be nice and you say, look, I won't go after Hillary Clinton, I won't go after Barack Obama, just don't go after me the next time that you win an election. And what happens? Well, Donald Trump leaves office in 2020 because of the stolen election, and then immediately they hit him with 91 indictments and 4 felonies and try to make him spend the rest of his life in Rikers over made up, trumped up, if you will, charges. So no, I'm over this. I've been saying from day one of Trump's victory, no compromise, no unity. You get on board with the Trump train. It's moving in one direction. And if you get in the way, you better be out of the way well and clear, because we are coming right for you here. I do not want to compromise. I'm over the compromise here. And as we're seeing this Tulsi, Obama, deep state, Clapper, Brennan, CIA, Russia collusion narrative hoax play out, my message is very simple. My belief is very simple. Donald Trump needs to apply the same pressure. He needs to bring up the same charges. He needs to give these same prison sentences if the roles were reversed. Can you imagine if Donald Trump colluded with his deep state? And I realize that doesn't exist because the deep state is still full of communist infiltrators. But if it were Donald Trump in 2015 hampering the transition of a Barack Obama presidency coming up, do you think when Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or Pete Buttigieg or Gavin Newsom got in power this year, that they'd be like, water under the bridge here. You know what? We'll be nice to you. Just don't go after us the next time. We're in cahoots together. We're all the establishment. We're all the political elites. We don't touch one another. Do you think they would do that? Or do you think they would lock up Donald Trump forever for an actual crime? Remember, they were going to lock him up for made up crimes. Do you think they would let that slide? So why is it when roles are reversed, why are we looking at the same? There's nothing you can do. You can't really touch them. These people were too powerful. Folks, they went after Donald Trump on 4 different felonies in 3 different states. And had he not won the election, he was a goner. We were all goners, but Donald Trump would be in prison right now if he lost the 2024 election. It's not an exaggeration. It's not hyperbole. This is fact. Let me get to the comment section here. Folks, we are a live show. Drop a comment here. Just want to make sure that the comments pop up on the feed here. I'm going to see if we can figure out Rumble at the same time, but I don't know if it's going to happen today. So I am sorry for my smaller podcast channel, the American Tribune Live. We'll upload the video and we'll try to figure out the connection there. But Donald Trump needs to not only investigate, this is my other pet peeve with the Trump administration right now. I don't mean to rant on the Trump administration. It's been fantastic. Immigration alone, I voted for immigration more than anything else. And we have seen a secure border. We have seen deportations. Not enough. I would love more deportations. But we've seen the farm raids. We've seen the Home Depot raids. We've seen the detention of illegals that need to be removed from the country. Homan, Miller, the best thing to happen out of the Trump administration. It has been fantastic on so many levels. We have won the culture war. I'm going to touch on the culture war in just a little bit after we talk about Tulsi, Obama, and everything else that's playing out right now. It's been great, but I'm tired of the investigations. I'm tired of the Fox News appearances. I'm tired of the tweets laying out all the alleged crimes. Got to say alleged right now. And then nothing comes of it. Epstein files, they're on my desk. I'm going to go on Fox News and talk about how we just revealed that Obama orchestrated the entire Russia collusion narrative hoax. And then are there going to be arrests? I mean, there should be something, right? You would think that a president colluding with his deep state officials, hampering the voting of the American people, the will of the American people, setting up lie after lie after lie that led to impeachment trials, that led to fake news stories, that led to the furthering of the brainwashing of the American populace that votes Democrat. You would think something would come of that. So are we going to get tweets and Fox News appearances and investigations that never go anywhere? How is it that James Comer, I got to go on a James Comer rant. All right, I'm over it. What has it been? 7 minutes and now I'm fired up already talking about this. James Comer has been investigating. He's been in charge of the GOP Oversight Committee for like 4 years now, bringing Hunter in, doing the subpoena, letting Hunter walk out, saying we got Hunter for crimes, gun evasion, tax evasion, prostitutes, minors on sex tapes. We're investigating Hunter Biden. What has ever happened with James Comer's Oversight Committee looking into Hunter Biden, folks? It's never gone anywhere. This is the point. Republicans do a great job of presenting evidence, presenting information, making a compelling case for all the things that are happening. Even Comer recently with Biden's doctor, and the doctor pled the fifth. And I guess Comer is just like, we know you lied. You know you lied. Everybody knows you lied. We know it's a lie, and it's a lie. Biden was not fined. Doctor signed off on it, but he pled the fifth, so apparently he's going to be okay and not get any consequences. Comer is sitting on that. Nothing's going to happen to the Biden doctor for lying to you about Biden's health and signing his name on a fraudulent document. Where are we, Republicans? No more investigating, no more hearings, no more Fox appearances, no more tweeting, nothing short of bringing up charges, putting these people in handcuffs and jumpsuits and making them sit down in front of a jury or a judge and letting them go to prison for their crimes is going to appease me when it comes to this specific realm of the Trump presidency. I want charges to be brought. I want people sent to prison. That's what we voted for. That's what we deserve as the American people. And I know it's trite to say, like, if we don't hold them accountable now, they'll just keep doing their thing. Like, make no mistake, they're going to keep doing their thing one way or the other. But at least we can feel good that there's some closure on a specific crime that was committed. And this is not a stretch. I mean, you can rationalize this fairly easily. If you are a family and you have someone killed by a drunk driver or murdered or whatever the case may be, you would go to the hearing, you would sit down, and when the judge says you're now going to prison for 30 years, you don't get your family member back, you don't get your previous life back, but you get some sense of closure and justice because at least the bad guy got punished. Right now, we're just going in this circle jerk of Washington, D.C., pretending they're looking into it. Nothing ever happens. If Obama's not going to be prosecuted, why would anyone else have to worry? They're going to keep committing crimes. The next Democrat president's going to be like, well, I guess I can get away with anything. And they will. They will, unless Donald Trump, he doesn't need to grow a spine. Trump has a spine. He stood up to the entire deep state and ran for re-election again. But something has to happen with all of the information that is now floating out there. Biden doctor, Hunter Biden, Barack Obama, James Comey, Clapper, Brennan, the list just goes on and on and on. And we're not even talking about Hillary Clinton anymore. For 10 years, Trump promised to lock her up. She still needs to go to prison as well. I'm kind of over it, folks. I'm over it. Again, I don't want to compromise. I don't want to brush it under the rug. I don't want any unity with these people. I want accountability, because what's the point in winning if you're not going to secure big wins? If Democrats come to power again, they will lock us all up. I got to show you this comment from Twitter here. I'm just going to read it out loud for a second here. Let me see if I can pull it up really fast. So some moron out there, some leftist idiot here. Apparently I've been busy on the old Twitter lately here. I got to keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. There we are. So this is out of Minneapolis here. So in Minneapolis, they have now nominated a socialist, a Somali communist. He's going to replace the white liberal, guilt-ridden, woke ally, Jacob Frey. Jacob Frey is the mayor of Minneapolis, by the way. When George Floyd killed himself in a drug overdose, he was kneeling and weeping at the golden casket. And it doesn't get any more woke than that. Here are my credentials. I was kneeling and crying. He had his mask on. He's wiping away tears at the overdosing felon. And what happens? They replaced him right away. And so the comments here. Oh, you know, I scrolled on the wrong one. That was the wrong thread. That's a good point to make anyways. But you got this moron here saying the Holocaust of Gaza is far more morally corrosive to our shared humanity than Nazi Holocaust because the perpetrators don't hide it. Our governments openly support it. We have daily social media updates and still it continues. This will scar us for generations. So you got some lunatic over on X saying that the Holocaust, whatever that means to this person, of Gaza is more morally corrosive than the actual Nazi Holocaust. I have thoughts on the Holocaust, by the way, but we'll go with his assumptions here for a second, his premise that the Holocaust happening right now in Gaza is worse than what we'll say is the narrative of the Holocaust from Nazi Germany. So I simply replied here, I don't know how you share a country with complete idiots like Nate Bear, his name is Nate Bear, other than ensuring they never get in power again. Seems like a fair point. I don't want people that view Gaza as more horrific than the traditional narrative, the Nazi Holocaust here. And Nate Bear replies, this is going to be a theme of the show today as well. I don't know why I'm not sharing my screen around here. I'll let you guys read the tweet as well. So then Nate Bear replies to that. So here's the thread. Don't know how you share a country with complete idiots like this. Idiots is a nice way to frame it. These people are lunatics, communist lunatics. Nate Bear replies, we've never been in power. You'll know when we are. Don't worry. That's not even a veiled threat. That is just an open threat. Nate's basically saying, if my ideology ever gets in power again, you, Todd Peterson, will be sent to the first camp that we build. Now, it is quite frightening to think that they had Obama. Now we're learning about the Obama administration. Turns out he was just an awful human being. We knew that. I mean, the Democrats will never wake up to that, but the truth is coming out at least. Biden was the most tyrannical dictator we have ever had as president. It was awful. And you got this guy over here saying we haven't been in power yet. And you're thinking to yourself, you had Obama, you had Biden, you had control of the House and the Senate for Biden's first 2 terms, but we've never been in power. But don't worry, when we are, you'll know. And of course, I said, thanks for proving my point about never needing you guys in power again. Like, this is what they will do. They will lock up their political opponents. This is what communist regimes do without fail. Every single time communist regimes lock up political opponents. And then they go after all the dissidents, all the supporters of those political opponents. Nate Bear is saying, don't worry, if my ideology, the viewpoint that Gaza is a Holocaust, the worst Holocaust this world has ever seen, you will be going to a camp. How else do you interpret that? We can't let these people get in power again because the worst things that could happen to us would happen to us. And the point is, Trump needs to apply these same rules to Democrats. Now, I am not saying hold all Democrat voters in detention facilities, although if we remove them from voting, we'd have a much saner, safer country. I'm not saying to arrest political opponents per se, but if those same political opponents have committed actual crimes, then they need to be locked up. And they need to be locked up for committing crimes. Not because they have a D behind their name, not because they oppose Donald Trump, this or that, because they are criminals. Donald Trump has evidence, has dirt on all of these felons in Washington, D.C. Schiff saying he's a resident of Maryland. Meanwhile, he's representing the state of California. Letitia James lying on her mortgage, no less, going after Donald Trump for mortgage fraud. Letitia James committed her own mortgage fraud so she could have a lower tax burden on that house. Nancy Pelosi magically made like $100,000 million again the other day because she had access to information before the rest of us here. There are real crimes. I don't know where Stacey Abrams' $2 billion went that she received magically last year. USAID, you've got all the funding going to Democrats. It all disappears. I think Marco Rubio pointed out like 1/10, 1/20th of the money designated for a cause actually makes it to the cause. The rest is pilfered and siphoned off by donors and lobbyists and the bigwigs. Those are crimes, folks. I don't know what else to tell you. Those are crimes. Therefore, the people perpetrating those crimes, the political class, need to be arrested for them. They would do the same thing in a heartbeat if the roles were reversed to Donald Trump and his cabinet members and his officials and his supporters. Again, it's not vengeance. I made the point in the little subheading here. It's not just vengeance for vengeance's sake. It's just retribution. And actually, it's just holding criminals accountable. Oh, and Jason Robertson says, we need perp walks. Yes, we need lots of perp walks. And I have changed my mind every single day. If Kathy Hochul's given an interview, I say, make Kathy Hochul the shining example. Some days Brandon Johnson's out there saying we're going to defy ICE, and he's going to throw all of his black constituents under the bus and say, I prioritize illegals now more than you guys, even though you're living in Section 8 housing in the ghetto. Crime is out of control. You'll vote for me no matter what because you guys are black voters and you're going to vote Democrat. But I will ignore all of your needs and wants and all the issues in your community because illegals need to have free housing and free healthcare and free education and take up seats everywhere else. Other days it's Schiff. Other days it's Pelosi. Other days it's Barack Obama. Right now, if I had to choose one, I couldn't. I just want one big name to be arrested. But then Jason Robertson, who, by the way, is a great follow on X, J-Rob from Minnesota, also does a great podcast on Fridays on Freedom from the Press. You guys might have to check it out on the American Tribune Rumble channel, rumble.com, American Tribune. Perp walks, plural. They all need to be arrested. I got a neat little graphic for you guys, folks. Do you remember this? This wasn't that long ago. Mugshots of Donald Trump, Rudy Giuliani, John Eastman. Look at all those faces here. These are people in Trump's legal orbit, by the way. Remember when they were going to disbar lawyers for lawyering for Donald Trump? These are mugshots that Democrats mandated because they were going to charge and arrest and imprison everybody associated with Donald Trump after 2020 was contested. I don't know if you've caught the news, but we are questioning the election outcomes of 2024. Democrats say it was stolen. Kamala Harris said it was stolen. Even in Minneapolis, I just referenced the Jacob Frey and then Somali communist, I am your mayor now guy. Jacob Frey is contesting the primary results, saying that that was illegal. So you can be a Democrat, you can question results all day long. But the faces you see here, they question the 2020 election, and boom, they were going to go to prison forever. And thank goodness Donald Trump won, because that's exactly where they would have headed. Yes, we need to arrest all of them. And again, I have to make this point because if a Democrat is listening right now, all they hear is arrest political opponents, and that's and then they use their words that they learned from TV: fascism, authoritarianism, dictatorship, totalitarianism. They'll throw those words out there. They don't know what they mean. My low IQ seeking out booster Democrat voters here, they love to get their boosters. No, I am not saying arrest political opponents for arresting them for arresting's sake. I am saying arrest them because they are all criminals and they have committed crimes. And I don't want to live in a society where these guys can commit all the crimes they want, enrich themselves, enrich their buddies here, stay in power, and have zero accountability. I don't know, guys. It doesn't seem like it's rocket science to me. We'll go back to, I think we wrapped up the Nate Bear conversation, but that's where we're headed. Again, the folks like Nate Bear, they are the radical left wing of the Democrat Party. This is your AOC. They're all the same. Actually, what am I talking about? There is no radical left wing of the Democrat Party and a moderate in the Democrat Party. You could make the argument that Joe Biden represented the last of the old guard, the Democrats that were just not entirely insane. But then you look at Joe Biden's record, even auto pen or not, and it's like, well, that was the farthest left we've ever gone as an administration. If so, Joe Biden is like the moderate Democrat, the last of this old guard, and his administration did that. My God, I don't even want to think about what the new guard is going to do. So they're all the same. I make the point every single day. If you have a D behind your name, you are all the same. I don't care what your personal feelings are. I'm going to throw Jason under the bus here because he's not live on the podcast. Jason, you can bring this up again on Friday here. Jason makes the point, though, that like a Dean Phillips from Minnesota, Dean Phillips is a Democrat. He was calling out the radicals in the Democrat Party. And so Jason and I differ because he said, well, I like this kind of Democrat. And my whole point is they're all the same. I don't care what Dean Phillips says or how he personally feels. He probably looks at AOC and is like, my God, this is a short bus communist and we don't need this in our party. But at the end of the day, he votes with Democrats every single time. He ran against Joe Biden because he didn't like the direction Joe Biden was taking the country. And then he endorsed Joe Biden after he dropped out of the primaries here. So they're all frauds. If you have a D behind your name, you are the same. If you want to call them a moderate Democrat or a radical Democrat, again, you can nuance that. But at the end of the day, they are all Democrats. They all do the same Democrat thing. They vote the same. They support the same guys. So at the end of the day, that is what leads to our far left radical communism in the Democrat Party. So I don't make that distinction anymore. If you are going to identify as a Democrat in 2025, I just assume A, you're a moron, and B, you support the communist ideas promoted by, again, the loudmouths in the party, the AOCs, the Jasmine Crockett's, the Kamala Harris's, the Pete Buttigieg. They're all the same. And Donald Trump, as such, needs to apply these same rules to all of them. You're a Democrat? Well, I will look into your corruption and your criminal activity, and then I will hold you accountable for it. All right, I got to get to this here. So let me play the Tulsi clip here. I know, 20 minutes in, I promised I'd talk about Tulsi. Let's listen to Tulsi lay out the case here. So Tulsi Gabbard talks about the narrative in 2016, leading up to the election. every intelligence agency was like, we don't have a lot of evidence that Russia's involved. Now, Facebook was like, they paid $40,000 on political ads, and that is not a lot of money when it comes to political ads in a presidential election. So no, Russia did not change the outcome of the election in either direction. Google did, because Google encourages certain things to pop up when you search it out. Magically, Google always favors Democrats and downplays Republican news. Now, if it's negative Republican news, Google's going to push it to the top. But all the big tech platforms were leaning for one candidate, and that candidate was Hillary Clinton. But we don't talk about that. We talk about how Russia bought $40,000 in ads that swung the election on Donald Trump. But every intelligence community said, no, there's no evidence that Russia's really meddling. And we all agreed on that. And then December happens after Trump wins, and suddenly the intelligence community is like, whoa, turns out Russia really influenced the election. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, did they just catch it and they missed it the first time? Or did they manufacture some news that they could even weaponize against Donald Trump for the next 4 years? And by extension, 10 years, we're still talking about this. People still think, you have Democrat family members and friends out there that still think Putin helped Trump win in 2016 and Trump is a Putin puppet, even though Trump is calling out Putin and trying to end the war, and Putin's the one that doesn't really want to stop it, and he's helping Ukraine still. But yeah, Putin puppet, let's go with that. Here's Tulsi Gabbard laying out the case. And again, I'm not a big fan of laying out the case here. Good to do. Good to get it out there. But this better not be where it ends. Now we need to bring charges against these people.
2016 election, the intelligence community agreed that there was no intelligence that reflected that Russia was trying to hack the election in favor of either candidate. The evidence showed, the intelligence showed that, again, Russia did not have either the intent nor the capability to be able to impact the outcome of the United States election. So it was very striking when we look back again at the documents that I declassified and released that shows there was a shift in early December, the first week of December. Again, another document was produced by the intelligence community, a president's daily brief that was consistent with every other assessment that was done previously leading up to the election. Russia did not, this is after the election now, did not attempt to affect the outcome of the American election. That was never published. Hours before it would have gone into President Obama's President's Daily Brief, it was pulled by a senior level intelligence official saying that they had to pull it because they had received new guidance. The very next day, this meeting was called, a National Security Council meeting, bring together all of the senior leaders of President Obama's cabinet, and the topic that was put forward was a sensitive matter. The tasks that came out of that meeting was coming from President Obama directing the intelligence community, then Obama's ODNI director Clapper, to produce a document, to produce an intelligence assessment that detailed not if, but how Moscow affected the outcome of the election that had already occurred, electing Donald Trump.
All right, there's a lot coming on there. I wasn't going to play the full clip, but it was very important to hear it all. Did you catch there at the very end, though? Tulsi Gabbard says Obama directed him to not compile the evidence, but rather to produce evidence. Hey, Clapper, you're going to manufacture, create out of nothing an intelligence report that contradicts everything that we had understood previously. And Gabbard she's using kind of her legal approach here. She's like, this is evidence. We don't have anything solid yet. I'm not going to make accusations necessarily. I'm going to read between the lines here. I will just go and say it. She is accusing Obama of manufacturing the entire Russia collusion hoax. That's what is happening here. You need to produce a document that gives us exactly what we want. Now, in my mind, I go to the 2020 phone call with Raffensperger down in Georgia. Remember when Donald Trump says you need to find 13,000 votes and how that was election interference? Donald Trump needs to be impeached over that or sent to prison for that because phone calls and Donald Trump never go well. You need to find 13,000 votes. Now, he said, what he really said was you need to audit your election because there are fraudulent mail-in ballots that did not get rejected at the rate you would expect with mail-in ballots here. We accepted all of them in COVID. No wonder Democrats got 81 million votes. Remember when Obama got 65 million, Kamala Harris got 65 million, and somehow in 2020, Biden got 81 million votes. I'm sure it had nothing to do with all the mail-in ballots. And so he says you need to find these votes, do an audit. And in this case, Obama says you need to produce a document that shows that Russia colluded with the Trump election, and then we will use that narrative for the next 4 years to hamper the administration, First 2 years, every single day, Schiff was on TV saying, I have the smoking gun today. It just got released in a hearing. I'm going to talk about it tomorrow. Here's proof that Donald Trump colluded with Putin. For 2 years, we did that. And then the Mueller report comes out and nothing there. And now this comes out, and not only is that wrong that nothing was there, it swings in the other direction altogether. There's a lot there, but instead of a lot being Trump and Putin colluding, it turns out it was Barack Obama and his deep state colluding. Now, if Donald Trump should go to prison and be impeached for colluding with Russia, what is the penalty for actual collusion taking place with Obama and his deep state instead? I would argue the same thing. If a woman falsely accuses a man of rape, she should get the same sentence. If Barack Obama is going to falsely accuse Donald Trump of a hoax, he should get the same sentence. And more than that, he committed treason. And folks, I can't say this on YouTube. I don't even know if I can say this on X or Rumble. I have said it before. I'm always hesitant to because I don't need a knock on my door. Just look up the penalties for treason. And it is a wide spectrum. I'm always fascinated by this. If you look up the code, the law for committing an act of treason in the United States, it goes all the way from like 10 years in prison to execution. So I don't know if there's like a gradients of treasonous activities. It seems to me like that's a black or white, like on-off switch. Did you commit treason or did you not commit treason? Do they take into account the extent of the treason? How many people were involved? How long it went on? I have no idea. But it is interesting that you can commit treason, get a couple of years in prison, or you could just be killed. So I'll leave that open to interpretation. The kind of penalty Barack Obama deserves, but does it get worse than this? Have we had a larger scandal than this? The Democrat establishment colluding with one another. Again, they have their little circle jerk in Washington, D.C., to overturn not just the will of the American people. And again, I go on a lot of tangents on the show. The will of the American people bothers me. I don't trust the will of the American people or necessarily even like the will of the American people. I'm over mass democracy in general. Half this country voted for Kamala Harris. I don't respect their will at all, and I never want their will to have power again. So it's a fine line when you talk about the will of the people here. But Donald Trump won the election, and because he was, I'll say populist, he was conservative, whatever thing you want to say that was not establishment, he was a threat. He was a real threat, and he didn't get much done in his first term here. I like to think Donald Trump learned his lesson. He came in guns blazing his second term. But again, he needs to apply the same rules now. They tried to put him in prison. They tried to kill him. I'm not suggesting Donald Trump send out sniper teams to any of these people, but I am saying he needs to send out his FBI, his DOJ, whatever agency is required. He needs to go arrest them at this point. This, for me, this 2-minute clip on Fox News is enough for me to be like, yep, they committed a crime. And as Jason Robertson, always the astute J-Rob from Minnesota, said, we need perp walks. Yes. Can you imagine? I voted for this, by the way, but can you imagine Barack Obama, hands cuffed behind his back, led out by the biggest dudes possible? I know Trump loves optics here. I want to see the most burly, muscled up dudes guiding Obama's shoulder, smashing his head down. And so he's sitting down in a car here. And then I want him led into the courtroom where he has announced, he has had his charges read to him. And it says, you are charged with treason, Barack Obama. I voted for that. I voted for it. All right, we're going to switch gears here. All right, I got to segue back to the Nate Bear comment here. Something bothers me about that. These leftists are absolutely insane. Number one, I think Nate Bear believes it when he says we've never been in power yet. You'll know when we're in power. They believe that, by the way. They believe that here. And again, I was trying to just have a friendly conversation on the old social media there, which rarely happens. And I got to apologize in advance. The American Tribune has, I'm going to say it, the best audience out there. Skews a little older here. So I'm not using the word boomer derogatorily. Just understand, I'm going to pop this graphic up here because this is what it's like debating the Nate Bears of the world. Every Democrat voter for the most part at this point. And then I got a Beto O'Rourke video to really hammer this point home. But we'll just pop it up and I'll apologize as we're doing it here. This guy, the name's not important, says, never forget when you are arguing with a leftist or a boomer, you are actually arguing with the TV and the TV cannot hear you and it does not care. I am going to smash those two nouns together. Leftist boomer. We have a great boomer audience here. I am a boomer at heart. I use the word boomer to describe myself all the time. I can't even figure out my microphone and camera. So I'm broadcasting here. That's why the audio is off. The camera is zoomed in my face. I'm just broadcasting from a MacBook right now because our third-party streaming service didn't like my setup here. One day it just said, your USB is not recognized, and I don't know how to fix it. So I'm a boomer too. I'm a Luddite. I wear that badge proudly here. But I'm talking about, and I've talked about my wife's uncle and aunt before. I got uninvited to Easter because I refused to get the genetic therapy that was an experiment, the largest mass experiment on the human population ever. Didn't want to get it, so I got uninvited from Easter here. Every time we're together, they want to remind me how good of people they are because they vote for the ruination of this country. So those are the boomers I'm talking about. It's the ones that watch MSNBC, CNN, and now they're scrolling on their phones, the doom scrolling to be like, what does Occupy Democrats have to say today? That's who I'm referring to when I say boomer here. There are conservative boomers out there, and they are the best audience that we have. I love them all. So leftist boomer is what we're talking about here, because you got the old folks that just watch MSNBC all day. They retire and they watch MSNBC all day, and they let Keith Olbermann and Joy Reid formerly, and now who else do they have? Is Maddow still in the air? They let them basically come up with their own opinions. But that's Nate there. You can't argue with these people. They don't have their own ideas. Leftists believe in nothing. They stand for nothing. They have no principles. They have no moral grounding. They believe in whatever sounds good in the moment. That is it. That is it. So when you have a discussion with them, if you ever want to just like punch your head against the wall and you want to encounter this yourself, head over to Rumble and enter some like political forum and just ask a question. Let them do the prompt, let them do all the work, but just ask a question, be like, I don't understand. Can you play this out here? I got Ken in the chat. Yeah. Ken, I am never going after our audience here. Yeah. The American Tribune, again, I consider myself an honorary boomer if you'll have me, Ken. Yeah. Trump supporting boomers, the best folks out there. Anyone that supports Trump is not going to get called names on this program here. You are awake. If you support Donald Trump, you're awake. And if you don't support Donald Trump, you're not awake. I was just reading off the tweet here, but Ken, thanks for watching. Thanks for commenting here. Got a new face in the chat today. I love it. Yes, I am also a Trump supporting boomer, Ken, if you'll have me. Go to Reddit, though. Ask a question. Ask them to clarify their viewpoint. Take it to its logical conclusion. And then they just scream at you. They melt down. Their response will not apply whatsoever to your own question, but they just go ad hominem. They make up these insane whataboutisms. It is fascinating. It is fascinating. It's also super frustrating because their vote counts the same as yours. My vote, your vote, it gets negated immediately by every single goon over on Reddit. But it is funny. If you want to have an experiment, just go in knowing you're not going to change minds. You're going to be outraged at the fact that people are, yes, that's stupid. But it is very enlightening. But again, you're not arguing with them. You're arguing with a robot. We use the term Borg a lot. Every Democrat voter has just been assimilated into the machine. They're no longer autonomous. I've often made the point they're no longer really human beings at this point, because if you abdicate your free will, your critical thinking, all the gifts from God that create this divine human experience, if you have given that up to drink whatever Kool-Aid you're supposed to drink that day and say one thing today and believe the exact opposite tomorrow and have no problem whatsoever saying both at the same time, yeah, Borgs. Ken's on the same page with me. Shatner or Picard, by the way. I don't think Borgs were in the Shatner version, though. Yeah, you're not talking to a person anymore. I don't even know if you can consider yourself a person. I'm not trying to dehumanize, make it easier to send them in trains and ghettos and all that. But I am asking the question, like, are you a human being if you don't think for yourself anymore, don't ask questions about the narratives anymore, just go along with the narrative every single day? That doesn't seem like living to me. Let me know your thoughts. But Ken's sharing his thoughts. Thanks for watching, Ken. Thanks for commenting. I love doing the podcast live because then I like interacting with the audience. Jason, when Jason and I do our show on Friday, same thing. He and I can scream at each other or scream at a camera all day long, but it's much more fun to do it with you all here. And we got Mickey in the chat. Speaking of Jason, we got Jason's neighbor in the chat today, former coworker. Mickey says they go off the rails. You have to go in ready to brush it off and laugh like a toddler throwing a tantrum. That is a perfect way to put it. I don't like to reference my Twitter profile all that much, but I said the same thing. Like, my 4-year-old, she's almost 5, is more equipped to deal with being told no, to rationalize something that's happening, for me to explain something to her so that she understands. It's easier to do that with my child than it is a Democrat here. That is a great analogy because it's true. I mean, Democrats have adult bodies, but they are stunted in growth. They are children in their minds still. They believe in this fantasy world, this utopia. They believe in things that will never come true. They ignore reality, much like children do. If you're a parent, you know exactly what I'm talking about, except dealing with my child, who's a little precocious for 5. She is much more prepared. I got to tell this story, folks. I wasn't going to do it today, but Mickey made me think of it. And Mickey's heard this story before, too. My sister-in-law, who is an educator in the area, and you already know everything she believes. All I have to do is say she's an educator with a master's degree, and you know exactly what kind of person I'm talking about here. Because, again, they give up their individuality. As soon as you think, oh, educator with a master's degree, you are like everybody else. I know exactly what you think are going to say on every single issue. She decided that she was such a better person and knows better, and I'm an awful parent because I voted for Trump. She was going to introduce gender ideology to this 5-year-old that I referenced here, almost 5, talking about how boys can be pretty and girls can be handsome, and we're going to raise our son to be whatever he wants, and it's beautiful. And again, you take that idea to its logical conclusion, you're not going to like where it leads. So she says this in front of my child, and that night I composed myself, fire off a text to her and her husband, and it's very nice. I should actually read it, but basically what I said was, it is fine that we disagree on politics. They don't talk politics to me anymore. But what I'm asking is that we respect the children in the room and not introduce our politics to each other's kids. If we want to talk politics, I'm happy to do that. I love talking politics. Shoot, I'm screaming at a camera right now. I love talking about politics. And I said, just leave the kids out of it, please. Seemed fair enough. You believe that your kid can be a girl someday? I do not. And I don't want those ideas even poisoning her mind because it's so dangerous. They just have to hear it once as a kid. They're so impressionable. And for the rest of their childhood, they ask themselves, gosh, can I be a boy? That sounds like fun. I like trucks. I like driving in Dad's new pickup truck. I got a new truck, by the way. It's awesome. She likes driving in my truck. Does that make her a boy now? They start asking those questions. They only have to hear it one time. So I had to nip this in the bud. Do not talk politics in front of my kid. Do not talk about your political ideology in front of my kid. Said it very nicely. I said, not mad. I'm moving on. I just want to get ahead of this. Their response was insane. They said, I will never back down from what I know is right. If you don't like what we say to your kid, then you can sit her down and tell her how auntie and uncle were wrong that night. I already prefaced by saying that they refuse to talk politics with me, but they expect my 4-year-old to be able to handle these conversations. There is no other interpretation other than the fact, and again, this ties into Mickey's comment perfectly, they are more like kids than my own kid is. They expect my almost 5-year-old to be able to handle a conversation talking about how, well, you see, half of this country is insane and believes that a boy can be a girl can be a boy, dudes should be able to undress in front of women in locker rooms, they should be allowed to do whatever they want in society, march down parades, butt naked. I'm supposed to talk to my almost 5-year-old how that's wrong, and I still have to talk about the ideas, introduce the ideas in order to squash them. She thinks that's okay. But then she doesn't think that we should talk about that as adults. They are literal kids. I mean that as literally as possible. They have the minds of childs. They want me to talk to my kid about this stuff, but they won't even talk to me about this stuff. Absolutely. It is all insane. All right, we are running long today. I was going to do a half-hour show. I say this every time. I was going to do half an hour, folks, and we're already at 40 minutes, but I got to get to Beto as well. It's the narcissism. It's the moral philosophy. They think they're so much better and smarter than you. Listen to Beto O'Rourke here. They had to try out Beto O'Rourke. He failed as a run for governor, failed in his run for Senate. I don't think El Paso is doing too great. He was in charge of El Paso for a little bit, but they brought him back. I honestly thought Beto was just, at a certain point, they're like, okay, let's run Kamala Harris. She's going to lose the election. Then we can be done with her. Beto, same thing. Okay, he lost this race. He lost that race. He's unpopular. So he'd been gone for a while, but he's back. He's back in the booth at CNN. And you know what? Democrats have just been focused too much on doing the right thing. They have sacrificed political power for doing the right thing. They're just such good people. Take a listen.
With being right than being in power. And we've seen Republicans only care about being in power regardless of what is right.
So you support the Newsom effort because California right now has an independent commission that does districts in as fair a way as possible, in nonpartisan way as possible. And you're saying Democrats should, even though you don't approve of it, Democrats should do it too.
We have to get serious. We have to be absolutely ruthless about getting back in power. So yes, in California, in Illinois, in New York, wherever we have the trifecta of power, we have to use that to its absolute extent. And then the last thing, this may end up biting Republicans in the ass. You have the possibility that they will disperse Republican voters to make up these 3 or 4 or 5 new congressional districts and put those districts in play. So in Texas, we've got to get out there and register and meet the voters who are going to decide the outcomes in these next elections if they're successful with this redistricting. Our group, Powered by People, is doing.
All right, I don't know about you, but I can only listen to Beto for so much here. Jason's got a great idea before I comment on the video. Friday, we should share stories about insane leftist Dems. I bet the audience has a ton. Great idea, Jason. I got Ken in the chat. I got Mickey in the chat. If you tune in on Friday to Freedom from the Press on the American Tribune channel over on rumble.com, let's do it. Let's all share some stories of insane lefties here. How about every lefty that voted for Omar Fatah to be the next mayor of Minneapolis here, competing with Zoran Mamdani to be just the worst immigrant, communist, illegal scum possible to manage a major city. All right, add it to the list, Jason. Insane lefty stories here. I know you have some family members of your own that would probably fill up the entire hour. But Beto O'Rourke, they brought him back. And he said, we've been so focused on doing the right thing. Now, again, I always pose the question, what is right that Democrats do? How is it good for an individual? How is it good for society? I'm not even asking the whole platform. I've always asked for just one example. One example. What is one thing Democrats stand for that is good or has good outcomes? I don't care how good it sounds. I want outcomes. And they don't have any. But that doesn't stop Beto from saying, look, we've been focused on the right thing here. Doesn't enumerate anything, doesn't list an example, just says it because it sounds good. Focus on the right thing. We lost sight of winning elections. I don't know about you. They had their sights pretty honed in 2020 when they allowed every single mail ballot to count, harvesting ballots where Ilhan Omar's district is, for example. So it seems like they're doing a pretty good job of winning. Somehow Kamala Harris raised $2 billion. Somehow Stacey Abrams got $2 billion of your tax monies. So it seems like they were really focused on winning still, but they're doing the right thing. We need to focus on getting back in power. And the conversation was related to redistricting, which is also insane. Remember when I said Democrats believe one thing one day and they'll believe the opposite the next, and they never pause to think, like, does this add up? Am I grounded in a philosophy or an actual belief system, or am I just parroting talking points? So when blue states redistrict, I should have pulled up maps. Actually, all right, Jason, we'll talk about that on Friday. On my Thursday show, I'm going to do a gerrymander episode. I have to show you maps of some of these congressional districts that have been carved out. Did you know, folks, it's actually a little preview for Thursday. It's illegal to not have non-white districts in America. So there are some states that have it codified in their books, thanks to the Civil Rights Act, that you have to create districts that will be represented overly by a minority population. So that's why you can see these squiggles, just a squiggle line up the map here, and you're like, well, there's nothing in common in this map here. Geographically, this doesn't make sense. And then you realize, oh, that's all the black neighborhoods. Oh, these are all the Hispanic neighborhoods. Maps don't make any sense because they gerrymandered the hell out of them to make sure that there was a non-white population to ensure that there'd be a non-white sent to Congress. At the end of the day, you have to understand woke means anti-white. That's all it is here. So Democrats do this every single day. Every chance Democrats get, they gerrymander the hell out of their states here to ensure, as you should, by the way, ensure they get the most Democrat representation. Why wouldn't you? Democrats play to win every single time. So yeah, red states, you need to, if you want to call it gerrymandering, if you want to call it redistricting as a euphemism, I don't really care. You just need to do it. You need to ensure that there are more seats made available to Republicans than there are Democrats. You need to play to win. As the headline says, Trump needs to apply the same rules to Dems. By extension, Republicans need to apply the same rules as Dems. If Dems are going to make up out of thin air districts that are not white, then Republicans can go around and say, all right, this little district would make a nice little Republican seat. Yeah, do it. Do it. But now they're outraged. So again, yesterday, gerrymandering was good. And today, gerrymandering is bad because it hurts our political chances. So we're going to moralize the issue and say Republicans have gone too far. And we're going to fight back ruthlessly, as Beto said. Remember when Donald Trump said go peacefully protest and they were going to throw him in prison for it? Beto says you need to ruthlessly go after these people, and nothing happens here. Different parties, different rules. But yeah, Dem voters don't catch any of it. I should just do a lamenting episode on how clueless Dem voters are. All my family, all my friends, they might be nice people. They're good parents. They go to work. They play the game. They're in the matrix here. Oh, I was supposed to go to college, buy a house, have a mortgage, coach my kid's baseball game. And then I'm going to go vote Democrat because that's what good people do. And you can see the end result. All right, last reference to my Twitter page. I've been on fire on Twitter lately as well. There was a comment from Fisher King. He's a bigger account here, and he's just talking about, man, it is wild to see Minneapolis fall apart. And so I'm a Minnesotan my whole life. I grew up in the suburbs of Minneapolis. I moved farther away now to get away from the shenanigans here. But you have Democrats in these second and third ring suburbs in the Twin Cities, probably I would imagine like the rest of the country, and they keep moving farther and farther away from the orbit, from the biggest city in there. First ring suburbs taken over. Second ring suburbs getting taken over. Third ring suburbs, you're watching all the illegals and the Somalis, and in Minnesota, actually it's mostly Somalis in Minnesota here. You're watching your formerly white communities where I grew up, ride your bike in the neighborhood with your other white friends. It is just crime-ridden and poor and minority. And so these Dem voters are like, well, I don't like this. So I'm going to go buy a house one town over here where it doesn't have this. And I'm going to vote Democrat because I can't put the pieces together that my voting is the reason my childhood home and neighborhood is now destroyed and taken over and conquested. So they'll never figure it out. They'll never figure it out. We need to do an episode lamenting the fact that Dems are unable to connect basic dots here. As Ken says, play the game using their own rules. Yes, Democrats don't play by any rules except what can I do in the moment to get power or brainwash these Democrat voters out there. That's their rule. The playbook is what do I need to do or say today to get power? And if I have to contradict myself tomorrow, so be it. We'll just pretend it never happened. What's that? I made you guys locked down for 2 years. I didn't let you go to the beach. I made you get an experimental jab. I made you mask up everywhere. No, that never happened. Donald Trump's the tyrant. Don't you see that Donald Trump is the tyrant? Yeah, they just ignore it and move on. And the Dem voters, like good little robots that they are, they just say, okay, program updated. We're good to go, folks. All right, I got one more video today. This is unrelated here. Oh my goodness. Jason, an honorary R word. Mickey says, I can just hear Jason and his R word. They truly are. Wife. I'm talking to my wife right now. I didn't say it. Jason didn't even say it. Mickey said it. Congratulations, Mickey. You're part of the team. This is a very exclusive club. But yes, I can hear Jason say it over and over again, pounding his keyword here, pulling his hair out. Yeah, Mickey, spot on here. I can hear it as well. I can hear Jason's voice right now dropping the word. It's a very hard R, by the way, when Jason says it. Jason, you got your letters backward already. All right, Jason's blowing up the chat here. I love it. Maybe that'll boost the algorithm a little bit. All right, I got one more video. It's unrelated here, but I was fired up about this clip as well. You can find the article at theamericantribune.com. Let me get rid of Beto here for a second. Let me pop up this video. Again, the graphics are just, I apologize in advance. Whoever is the producer of the show needs to be fired. The last clip I'm going to play for today, I just had to talk about this. When we talk about accountability, when we're talking about holding Dems accountable, I want to broaden that umbrella now. I am including every Democrat voter, Democrat politician, Democrat media pundit, and Democrat activist judge. And they're not really judges. They're just activists that pretend to be judges and wear robes. It's like a costume, kind of like men dress up as women. Same thing with these activist judges here. They're just pretending to be a judge because it's honestly, I've never understood it. It is not hard to be a judge in America. You read the Constitution, you read the laws, and you apply them. That's it. You don't have to think creatively. You have a boring, rote job. What does the Constitution say? Okay, then what's ever in front of me, I will apply that based on what the Constitution says or some statute says that, again, has to conform with the Constitution. But they don't do that. They say, how can I be a good person today? I know I'm going to release this violent, illegal, repeat felon back onto the streets, and he'll probably harm people, but that's okay. That's the price you pay for being a good person. So you've got a video clip here. Border Patrol released this, or Homeland Security released this footage. You got dudes on a motorbike. They see a Border Patrol agent, and they go shoot him in the face. I'm going to play this video, and then I'm going to conclude my comments and conclude the show on the other side here. All right. They're like, whoa, wait a second. There's a Border Patrol agent. So they back up. Here goes a dude. There's an illegal immigrant walking down. And point blank fires at him in the face. Now, the officer is okay, by the way, folks. He suffered 2 gunshot wounds, one to the arm, one to his left cheek. I mean, we're talking Trump assassination. We're talking inches from death here. And by the way, attempted murder should get the same charges as actual murder. The only reason is that you somehow failed. No. If he had murdered the cop, he'd face more serious charges. I'm on record saying if you attempt to murder somebody, I want the maximum sentence possible under an actual murder charge because there's no difference at that point. The victim just got lucky. But there they go. They shot the cop. They zoom away on their little bike here. This doesn't have to be normal in America. We could put a stop to this tomorrow. What you have to do, and again, I was broadening the umbrella. Every Democrat voter, politician, media pundit, and judge, and any Democrat, I won't even clarify that any further. Any Democrat, if you vote for it, your politics support it, your rulings allow it. If you want this guy in the country, invited him into the country, keep him in the country, release him back into the country, you need to be charged as an accessory to the crime. Any Democrat is aiding and abetting these criminal activities. Every Democrat involved with that dude's presence in America still needs to be charged as an accessory to that crime. Democrats, by their vote, Democrats, by their rhetoric, their language, their actions, they encourage and enable, and they even tolerate and promote it and celebrate it at this point. They love their illegals. No human's illegal. They need to be held accountable for their awful criminal enabling. If a criminal alien commits a crime, I want every Democrat voter in that person's locality, in their state. I want every judge that sent him back on the streets, every politician that's been on the campaign trail saying we will resist Trump's Gestapo ICE. I want them arrested and thrown in prison as well. Ken's on board, absolutely. Mickey's on board, I fully agree. The only way to stop this, I guess, honestly, it would remove Democrats from the street, which I talked about earlier in the show. I don't want to build detention facilities for Democrats. However, and I don't want to arrest political opponents just because they're political opponents, but I want to arrest people for crimes. If you, as a politician, commit a crime, I want Donald Trump to go after you. And if you're a Democrat, they'll say, oh, he's going after political opponents. No, he's going after criminal politicians. You, as a Democrat voter, I want you arrested when this stuff happens. No, we're not locking up political supporters of political opponents. We're locking up criminals. You are aiding and abetting this criminal activity, and I don't want it anymore. That means we'd have less Democrats on the street, less Democrats able to vote, less Democrats in office, less Democrat activists on the bench. I am here for all of that. No more just hands-free. I voted for illegal criminals to come into the country. And yeah, they might go murder Laken Riley. They might go rape your daughter down the street here. I didn't do that. He did that. Now, I understand it's a slippery slope. I got to clarify the slippery slope. I don't like it necessarily when white parents, notice always white parents get charged for a gun crime when their kid brings a gun to school or shoots somebody. If that were the case, every black parent would be in jail at this point. But we've had like the case in Michigan, something recently came up too, like a kid had a gun, and so they charged the parents. I don't like that. And I can understand the removal, the degrees of removal here. Well, yes, I'm not an illegal alien. I didn't shoot the officer in the face, but you're an accessory to the crime nonetheless. I think that's the only way to clean up the streets. Honestly, we are in power right now. We need to maximize the power that we have. Democrats have shown, again, the example of white parents getting charged with crimes when their white kids shoot up somebody. The same logic applies. We need to apply the same rules because Democrats aren't slowing down. They're not going to change their mind. This is a one-way movement of communism. It is a relentless march towards absolute tyranny. So yes, I am on record now saying I want every Democrat associated with this guy right here, with any other illegal associated with him. I want Democrats to be charged as accessories to that crime. Maybe then your nice, gullible, naive Democrat neighbor next door, again, coaches his kid's baseball team, goes to work every day, has a mortgage, has a college degree, he played the game he was supposed to, and then he turns around and votes Democrat. Well, guess what, buddy? The next time you vote Democrat, which means you want illegals in this country, you want violent illegals in this country to hurt American citizens, maybe you'll think twice about your vote if you know you're going to be held accountable for that dude's actions because they don't deserve to be here. They shouldn't be here. And you shouldn't be voting if you think that's a good idea to have them here. All right. I started the show. If you go back 53 minutes. If you go back 53 minutes, I promised a calm, measured approach today. No longer calm and measured. It's never happened. But I am going to end the show on that note here. Lock every Democrat up as an accessory to crimes that are illegals at this point. I'm here for it. By extension, we can apply that logic to the inner city. Oh, you voted for cashless bail. You voted to release violent repeat offenders. Congratulations. You are now an accessory to their gang criminal activity as well. I like this idea a lot. We might have to come up with a name for it. But with that being said, folks, I am going to sign off here. Mickey, I want to say thank you for watching. Thanks for commenting today. Ken, it was nice. I don't know if I've seen a Ken comment before, but appreciate you watching. Appreciate you commenting. Jason needs to work on his spelling. You got the E before the R there, Jason. But thank you for watching, Jason, as well. Folks, Jason and I do a podcast every Friday at 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern on the same Rumble channel here, the American Tribune channel. Would love to see you here back on Friday. Jason floated the idea that maybe we should have an insane leftist Democrat story from your inner circle, your family and friends. That would be a long show. We might have to do like the 24-hour all-nighter thing. Like, all right, here's another story. First time, I'll be back, says Ken. Ken, I appreciate it. Thanks for tuning into the show. Thanks for commenting. Thanks for giving us a shot. I look forward to having you back. So I do my own show every Tuesday and Thursday, 9:30. The time depends. I might have to figure that one out here, but we started a little early today. I hope you'll be back. And I have my own podcast channel, Ken, if you want to check it out here, the American Tribune Live with Todd Peterson. That's on a separate Rumble channel. Still in Rumble. Still there. But I appreciate it, Ken. Hope to see you back again in the future. And as Mickey says, Ken, check out Friday's show. I got to be honest, Ken, if you are liking this podcast here, I am unbridled. Jason's not here to pull back the reins. Jason's not here to be like, stop talking. I got to drop the R word here. But Jason and I have a good time together. If you want to check out the show, 10 a.m. Central on Friday. Again, same Rumble channel here. Goes live exactly at 10 a.m. We have that time figured out here. But to everyone else watching that wasn't commenting, thanks for watching today. I appreciate you choosing. You guys have so many options out there. God knows there is no shortage of podcasts and video formats and shows and what else. But Since you watched my show today for however long, I just want to say thank you and I appreciate it. I have a good time doing this. I hope you had a good time watching it today. I have a great time interacting with the comments section. That's the best part about doing the show here. But I'll be back on Thursday. Jason and I will be here on Friday. With that being said, folks, have a great rest of your day, and we will catch you then.